Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo. Today we're giving you a quick little update about Nate Solder and the latest talks around his contract and, what the Giants might do, whether it be, take his contract to another level, reduce the cap hit, let him go, what that might look like, especially the cap savings. That's an important factor in this entire process. And how they could replace him, because obviously, Cam Fleming is a free agent. He was only on a one-year, $4 million deal, so he's gone now. They could extend him. We'll see about that. There's a couple other avenues that could go. One specifically that came to mind that I think could be a good option for the Giants. But Anthony, how are you doing today, my friend? And, I'm excited to talk about Nate Solder possibly really just saving money from him.
I'm doing good. I'm tired. Wish I could take a nap right now, but ready to talk about Nate Solder, my favorite football player. No, not really. Nate Solder is a guy who, I don't think Giants fans are the biggest fans of, right? He is a Giants player, so by default, we root for him. We hope that he becomes the greatest offensive tackle to ever play, as long as he has a Giants sticker on his helmet. But in reality, he has been very far from a good offensive tackle while playing for the Giants, whether he was plagued with injuries off the field, personal problems, scheme differences, right, not fitting into a scheme. There's been a lot of factors working against Nate Solder, unfortunately, and these factors have all prevented him from living up to his extremely lucrative contract, unfortunately. A contract that was already restructured once and is now probably going to be restructured again if he continues to stay with the New York Giants. Now, of course, Nate Solder did not play in 2020. He opted out due to COVID. And totally respect that decision. He had very good reason behind it for sure. And now here he is. He's coming back. He wants to play again if it's in the right situation. So I think that quote is really interesting. If it's in the right situation, because does that mean that in the Giants' right situation, or does that mean a right situation elsewhere? Is he looking to maybe leave the Giants? Is he still considering? It sounds like that's considering retirement, right? He only wants to come back if it's the right situation. So it doesn't sound like it's guaranteed that he does come back, because maybe he doesn't like the situation, so then he just retires. That seems like an interesting scenario that could happen. I don't know, but I feel like there are teams around the league that would be interested in Nate Solder's services. He's a veteran offensive tackle who's been around for a while and had a lot of success during his days in New England. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is a team out there that's willing to take a chance on a veteran Nate Solder. I'm just not sure if at this point the Giants, developing Andrew Thomas, he's a rookie, he's going into his second year now. I don't know if there's really a place for Nate Solder on this roster unless you want to move him over to right tackle and see what he can do there. I guess that's really the only avenue that I see for Nate Solder. But other than that, I'm personally ready to move on from that contract and cut him from the team if it's, possible.
Yep. So essentially, if the Giants were going to restructure his contract, Ian Rappaport did report this, that the Giants are looking to restructure his contract if he's willing to. But the only way I'm considering this is if he really reduces the cap hit. That is the main thing. He's going to get paid a ton of money next season. $16.5 million is going to count against the cap. That number has to come down. And basically, they're going to be like, hey, either we restructure your deal to lower that cap hit exponentially, maybe more guarantees, maybe convert it into a signing bonus. There's a bunch of things they could do. But if he's not willing to do these things, if he's not willing to make the transition to right tackle, it's not looking too good. He does intend to play in 2021. That was reported by ESPN. So, this is a weird situation for the Giants, because they were like, well, if he retires, we get a lot of this money back that we don't have to deal with now. But here we go with, $16.5 million cap hit next year. Basically, what happens is if they cut him pre-June 1st, which would give them a little bit more flexibility to work with in free agency, they would save about $6 million. It would be a $10.5 million dead cap hit. If they cut him post-June 1st, it's a little bit different. They save $10 million instead of $6 million, so it's only a $6.5 million dead cap hit, but that money can't be used until after June 1st, when free agency, might be already underway. Well, it will be underway, and some of the bigger names, some of the players the Giants want to target, will be gone, and they won't be able to afford them yet. So that's kind of the problem here. They could just sign the contract and not make it official yet until after June 1st. But it gets sketchy. It's a long time to wait. I would not mess around in that category at all. But for the most part, I think that the Giants have a little bit of room to work with. They're going to be shedding some cap this offseason, whether it be cutting Cody Core, David Mayo. A lot of these guys have dead cap. It's Levine Toilolo. Good is gone. See you later. He's gone. But Nate Solder, how do you replace right tackle with Cam Fleming going? Do we feel good about Matt Parrott moving forward? And, Nate Solder hasn't played right tackle in 10 years? I think 10 years he hasn't played right tackle. So do you feel good about him making that transition after taking a year off from football? Not at all. I don't feel good about that at all. That does not scream optimistic to me. And when he did play right tackle, he was terrible as a pass blocker. He was a decent run blocker. That's the concern for me.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable moving Nate Solder to right tackle at all. And another reason I'm not a proponent of that is because I do see a potential future with Matt Parrott. I don't see a potential future with Nate Solder. I would rather Matt Parrott get the start, get to develop, prove what he can do in the NFL, and then, if he doesn't succeed, then we can move on, look for somebody else. But I want to give him a chance. I want to give him a fair chance, give him a shot. Let's see him start out there. Let's see what he can do, and maybe he can prove me right and prove many other people wrong and prove that he is capable of being a starting right tackle. So I don't want to take away reps from a younger guy just because Nate Solder is still under this ginormous contract. I'm ready to just, like I said, move on from this contract if possible. But this contract is positioned in a way where it's very difficult to do that. So that's very unfortunate. But I want to see these younger guys continue to develop and grow. Andrew Thomas's spot at left tackle, that's solidified. He's not going to move out of that spot. He's going to continue to develop and grow. But right tackle, Matt Parrott, that's up in the air. That's his for the taking. That is Matt Parrott's job to win or to lose, right? And I want to see him fully realize that opportunity and get the chance to compete for that spot. And I don't want a veteran offensive tackle on a huge contract to get seniority and become the starter on the right side just because of seniority and because he's paid so much.
It's the money. It comes down to the money every time. It's always going to be about the money. The Giants are currently $3 million over the cap. They have to be underneath the cap, I think, by March 17th when the new league year starts. The franchise tags need to be settled by March 9th. It's going to get a little sketchy. It's going to get a little interesting to see how the Giants maneuver the cap space to get underneath because, as I said, they're $3 million over right now, and they still have some big guys they have to sign. Leonard Williams, Dalvin Tomlinson, if they retain him, they're going to have to shed a bunch of dead cap, and that's going to come from Levine Toilolo. It's going to come from Cody Core. It's going to come from David Mayo. I think there's another guy I'm missing, but that's the reality of the things of what's going on this offseason. The COVID cap is going to be significantly limiting for what the Giants can do, and every team. It's not just the Giants, it's every single team. So expect to see a lot of guys taking 1-year deals, cheaper 1-year deals, trying to win a Super Bowl, trying to get a chance to win a championship on a good team. That's kind of how I see things going. I think the Buffalo Bills have some really good leverage. They're a team that I could see landing a couple guys on 1-year deals and just boosting them to a Super Bowl and then walking away like, okay, now we're good. Those guys go, they get their long-term deals next season when the cap goes back up after COVID's over. Knock on wood. So that is kind of what the situation is for the Giants. But Nate Solder's a player. You guys know as much as I do that we don't want to pay him $16.5 million a year. I think the best method is to just cut him post June 1st, save as much money as possible, use that money towards your draft picks. That's what I would do. Just cut all those guys I mentioned, including Golden Tate, save as much money as possible, and then just use that money for draft picks and then roll it over into the season in case you need to sign somebody. We saw during training camp Xavier McKinney go down. The Giants luckily had money to spend on Logan Ryan. Injuries happen. You have to supplement players. It's good to have some cash left over and available. So that is kind of the goal for right now. But Anthony, do you feel confident about Matt Parrott at right tackle if they stick with him? Because I personally don't feel overly confident that he can hold down a starting position right away. I think maybe looking at a guy like Darrell Williams, a former Gettleman player, he played with the Buffalo Bills this past year on a 1-year, $2.25 million deal. He was phenomenal. He leveraged that into probably a bigger deal. Maybe the Giants can look at him, give him, let's say, $10 million per season, 3 over 30, and then backload the contract a year, maybe 2 years with little dead cap in the third year if they cut him if they want to. I just think maybe finding a veteran who he's a good guy because I don't think he's going to make $15, $20 million per season, but he had such a great year last year. He might be able to get $10 million, maybe 7 to 10. Could be a guy to look at. What do you think?
I definitely think Darrell Williams is a good name to point out and a good guy to look at. He has that Dave Gettleman connection. He was an All-Pro, I believe, a few years ago, playing right tackle for the Carolina Panthers. Left, went to the Bills. rebounded in a really nice way. I know he dealt with an injury and that caused his play to deteriorate, but he really bounced back playing with the Buffalo Bills this past season. And I do think that he's a great name to look at. Now, when you ask me, am I confident in Matt Parrott? In some ways, yes, I am. I'm confident in Matt Parrott, but I'm not overly confident. I'm not, opposed to signing a guy like Darrell Williams just because Matt Parrott is on the roster. It's just I am cognizant of the fact that the Giants don't have a ton of cap space, so maybe taking the chance on the talented young guys on rookie deals that we have is really the only approach that we have. Maybe that's all that we can do considering the money situation that the Giants are under. And I do see a bright future with Matt Parrott. I told you this when they drafted him last year. I said he will be a starter at some point. I just don't think he's going to be ready in year one. They tried to get him out there in year one. He played really well. He surprised a lot of people. He looked like maybe he could start some games. But I think year two, that jump, he really regressed afterwards. He made a lot of progress, looked really good, regressed once he had COVID, didn't really look like the same player when he came back. But going forward, year two, I think that we could see a huge bounce back, a huge growth step for Matt Parrott if he were to elevate into that starting role. Now, of course, who knows? He was a third-round pick out of UConn. It's possible that maybe he wouldn't take that step forward. But I think that he at least deserves the chance, the opportunity to do it. But I do agree, Darrell Williams is a great name to point out there. If you think that you could significantly upgrade that position through free agency, then I think the Giants should absolutely go ahead and do it.
Yeah, and honestly, last year was probably the worst year for players looking to make a leap into a multi-year contract. It was the worst contract year you could ask for because now the cap's dropping. Teams can't offer big contracts right now unless he's going to sign with a team with a ton of cap space who just isn't ready to compete. And I think, after coming off a season with the Bills, who almost made the Super Bowl, I don't know if he wants to go to Jacksonville. I don't know if he wants to do that. So apparently he liked the Bills. He wants to stay, but he's not opposed to going elsewhere if the money takes him that way. The Giants know what they have in him because Gettleman drafted him in the first place. He has had a little rocky of a career. Like you mentioned, he did have an injury in 2018, which he only played one game. But the last two seasons, he's played all 16 games. I'm pretty confident he's over it. And he had such a good year last year in both pass and run blocking that it really helped the Bills. It really helped Josh Allen. And that goes hand in hand with, they got Stephon Diggs, they signed Darrell Williams. He ended up playing really well, gave Josh Allen more time in the pocket, and allowed him to connect with his number one receiver, and Stephon Diggs. If the Giants go out and find Devonta Smith, get Corey Davis, don't adjust their offensive line, it doesn't matter. It does not matter if you have good playmakers if your offensive line cannot block. I think that is the big thing people are forgetting about. We had the worst pass blocking offensive line in the league last year, of an average, actually a little bit below average run blocking offensive line. We are still in hell in that category. Thank you, Dave Gettleman. Maybe he's not entirely to blame, but he did promise us he was going to fix this. It's far from fixed. I don't even think they're going to get to average next year, even if Andrew Thomas takes a big step forward. Matt Parrott, I think I have pretty big hopes for him too. He's a very physically imposing player. He's huge, really long wingspan, but he is still raw. He still came from UConn. He's not NFL ready. He wasn't NFL ready, and he had COVID last year, which really hurt his development. He's gonna need time. He showed some good reps in run blocking, but in pass protection he got rocked on multiple occasions. I remember seeing it, especially against Baltimore. I remember that game specifically. So, there are situations where Matt Parrott might not be the guy you want to trust, but then again, neither is Cam Fleming. I don't trust him either. So we're kind of in a situation here where the Giants are going to have to either sign somebody or they're going to have to go with this rotation again. And I simply don't know if they can afford to do that, because if they're going to really invest in Daniel Jones, they might have to let Dalvin Tomlinson walk and put that money towards the offensive line. They might have to cut. I don't know. Obviously, Nate Solder is going to have to go. This is what this video is all about. He's gone. He's good as gone, in my opinion. Unless he's willing to restructure and go to right tackle, which might end up being the best move for them. But it has to be such a significant difference. I'm not paying him $12 million. I'm not paying him $11 million. I'm not even paying him $10 million to play right tackle next season because he is not proven. I'd rather take that $10 million and give it to Darrell Williams. Give it to somebody else. That's my big argument. It's a tough situation. This cap is not easy to work around.
No, you're absolutely right. And when you talk about the importance of fixing this offensive line for Daniel Jones, as he's entering his third season, well, you take a look at how he played with no pressure around him in 2020. He had a 91.5 PFF grade with a 79.4% adjusted completion percentage. Now, that's really impressive numbers right there. But under pressure, 46.9 overall PFF grade, 44 sacks while he's under pressure. Like, that's a lot. That's a huge number. He was sacked 45 times this year. The Giants have to protect Daniel Jones. You know, we keep talking about this year 3 breakout that we're expecting to see from him. And we keep saying that if he gets that number 1 wide receiver, maybe he can have that year 3 breakout. Well, that's not going to happen if he's on his back the entire game because he's being hit, you know, from every which way. The Giants have to fix the offensive line if they want to see him have this year 3 breakout. Whether that answer at right tackle is Matt Peart, a free agent like Darrell Williams, or if Nate Solder restructures his deal, gets it really cheap, and he decides to play right tackle and he plays at above average level. I don't know what the answer is right now for the Giants. I personally feel like Matt Peart is that answer. I think that he can do it. You know, you get into training camp, maybe he starts to struggle. You sign another guy, a free agent off the streets, and you hope that he does it better, right? But I personally, with the way that the money looks right now, I think the smartest option is just to go with Matt Peart at right tackle and to cut Nate Solder, get as much cap space as you can, and allocate that money elsewhere.
Agreed. I think that's the consensus here. But guys, thank you for tuning in to Fireside Giants, talking a little about Nate Solder, figuring out what they might do with the contract and whatnot. It's kind of interesting to see, you know, how they're going to manipulate things moving forward. It's going to be tough. You know, this is going to be a really strange offseason. We're going to see players that are being cut that we didn't expect. We've already seen Patrick Peterson. He's going. Xavier Rhodes. He's going. AJ Bouye. He's going. There's going to be even more. So we'll see what happens, guys. We'll keep you updated on everything. As always, much love. Thanks for tuning into the video. Make sure to subscribe below and turn on the notifications because we always got stuff coming out every single day. Thank you as always. We'll catch you guys on the next video.